Joining me for this webinar. My name is Shoaib Yunus. I'm a BIM technical specialist in mining and civil infrastructure at Baker Baines. And today I'm going to take you through what's new in Autodesk Civil 3D and InfraWorks 2020. So first of all, you do recognize, or you should probably notice, that I'm no more calling it AutoCAD Civil 3D. The branding has just changed and you'll see why soon. It's just known as Autodesk Civil 3D. It's got a whole new, I would call it a facelift. Looks really much more sharper and better than your usual AutoCAD background and stuff like that. And a lot of added functionalities for this webinar. So if you haven't more or less caught the Autodesk one, this is perfect. It's going to be showing you exactly what's new directly from the developers. And if you have any questions, please use the chat box. However, I have met, I would think, everyone here on the attendees list. You can drop me an email if you have anything or any concerns, and yeah, we can chat about it. All right, so let's look at the agenda for today. Quick and simple. I mean, you should be used to my webinars by now. It's quick in and out. It's a quick fly through exactly what's new in InfraWorks and Civil 3D. Again, you can see that the icons are also changed for Civil 3D. It's no more an A icon for 2020, it's a C. Okay, so let's first of all look at exactly what Autodesk looked at in terms of its development part for 2020. And you can see that the more or less the four headings there are transportation, ESRI, land, and water. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So if you have or you do specialize in these fields, that's being roads and highways, airports and rail, you should see these type of integrations. So first of all, the biggest one being BIM and GIS connected workflows. We've been waiting for this as a designer myself personally for a really long time. It helps a lot with project delivery, workflows, timelines, and the main thing being, or the hot topic for this year and the previous, being data, right? So you'll have access to a lot of tools in terms of data provided by ESRI Online, which I'm going to be showing you. Helps a lot with site planning, civil, structural, all across the board. GIS is integrated, right? So also there's something called design automation, being Dynamo. It's not the magician that you see on TV, right? But however, it does pull off some really wicked tricks. It really has done a lot of magic in terms of design and automation for those tasks that are really, I would use the word sucky to do manually. It automates it a lot. It does require you wrapping your head around it, the application part of it just a bit, but once you get through with it, it makes design much better. Then we've also got the usual ones being road rehab, civil structures, and collaboration being the huge one. We're trying to have an interconnected design across all different industries because civil is more or less the heartbeat and the center of it all. So again, airports, if you do airports, those are more or less the integrations. Again, GIS being the common one across all workflows. And also BIM 360, which is remarkably changing the way we do things at the moment. A lot of users, clients, companies applying it, and the results have been amazing. We've done a lot of implementations and stuff like that. And once you streamline your workflow according to that, it makes your work as a designer much more enjoyable. And I always bring this up with during interactions with the users, that we as designers, we normally chase deadlines and we don't really enjoy what we do. But when we have enough time to do it, we actually will be very proud and enjoy exactly what we're doing. So that's it from more or less the transportation angle. Let's look at land and water. Okay, so this falls more or less into two big categories, being site development, which is quite broad, and water and wastewater. So the site development stuff, you more or less will be familiar with it because there were integrations that had been started during the 2019-2018 interface of the software. But if you look at the water and wastewater, there has been some heavy focus recently. Reason being that we have been putting a lot of pressure on them as well in terms of developing the storm and sanitary analysis part of the software, the Civil 3D water part, as well as the InfraWorks. So we have made collaboration with Plant 3D much more improved, as well as the PNIDs for Revit. So if you have no idea what that is, it's more or less integrating your wastewater machine, plant and equipment, your structures into it, because Plant 3D has those libraries available, and it makes it much more easier for modeling and piping, which is always integrated with the civil workflows if you're doing developments and stuff like that. And it ties in perfectly with pressure pipes, ground forces, and stuff like that. And of course, Esri. Like I said, you're going to be hearing this a lot throughout this year as well as next year. There's going to be a lot of developments in terms of Esri, being the incorporation of ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS, however you want to call it. Reason being is that services are always integrated into every single design, because let's face it, we're always building or we providing infrastructure to existing infrastructure, if I can put it that way. So you would need more or less the positioning, the existing services, what's there on the site. And if you have that GIS platform and the online login, you will be able to access those services and do your designs in a much more streamlined, much more thoughtful and transparent way. Okay, so again, this is going to be a big part of it. The big part being at the moment the save back edits, which I'm going to show you, where you can actually edit what's on the online Esri platform according to your CAD, and then it will be updated instantaneously. Okay, so enough with the intro. Let's go into Civil 3D. So what's exactly new for Civil 3D 2020? These are the touch points that I'm going to be looking at very quickly today. So again, the big one, Dynamo. We are striving in the civil infrastructure space to automate a lot of the tasks, which Dynamo is doing very, very well. Then we're going to look at the SSA enhancements. I know a lot of people, or most of the users on here, as well as those that I interact with, don't really specialize that much into water. However, if you do, great. You can actually see the enhancements with SSA as well as the gravity network systems. Also the user updates or user interface, it looks a bit different. And then you've got also other improvements, right? So these are more rail specific. So if you haven't delved into rail design, or you haven't noticed it on your Civil 3D, it has been there for quite some time. There's a rail tab on the top where you would actually do designs in terms of road design, but just modeling the corridor differently with your ballast and stuff like that in terms of rail. Then you've got survey databases that can be used using the migration utility. The Civil 3D drawing rework is really good because it exports things much more better. It's not more very, very rigid or proxy graphics and stuff like that. And of course, there's added templates for at the bottom of the list. Okay, so let's look at the user interface update. So in a nutshell, it's just that they made it look much more better. If I could put it simply, it's a 4K display on the ribbon. I'm going to show it to you right now. If you haven't accessed 2020 yet, I would suggest you do. You can keep your 2019 on your desktop like most of us do when something is really new. But you will see that it looks much more sharper, slicker, and better, right? And actually, let me just show it to you, right? So these videos that I have here currently are from the developers directly, so they do have audio attached to it. I will play it. If you can't hear the audio, please just type in the text box no, so I would know, or yes, that you can hear it. If you can't, I will talk through them. It's very, very simple, straightforward. So let's give this a shot. Okay, so I will talk through these videos. That's fine. I can see that we can't really hear them. So what this normally is just more or less showcasing in terms of the interface, what exactly is being enhanced or changed. So first of all, you can actually see it's a 4K high resolution display. It looks much more better because if you use Revit and if you compare the layouts from Revit to Civil 3D, it looks really bad, but now we've actually matched it, if not better, much more slicker, and it doesn't have a CAD interface to actually highlight that to you, right? So that's just a simple thing that it looks a bit different, but the functionality is the same. Okay. Next thing we're going to look at is the actual Dynamo for Civil 3D. So if you haven't heard of Dynamo, it's a visual scripting tool, and it is remarkable in what it's doing in terms of industry for civil infrastructure. What it does, it uses visual programming. So it uses a bit of scripting or a lot of scripting where you will input parameters linked in to an actual CAD file or an Excel sheet and automate it accordingly. And why is it very important is, like I said, automation is key now because we're doing so many complex projects. And for example, I'll give you a simple example, like light post, right? If you're doing a road design or a road corridor, there's a certain placement for your actual light posts or your lighting. And if you have to do it manually, you more or less have to take that 3D model, copy and paste it at set intervals. So copy it, and then if you're placing it every 20 meters, you will have to physically or manually click and place that individually until you reach the end. What Dynamo does is, I'll show you on the next video, it actually automates it where you can actually put in the parameters, the spacing, the CAD that you would use, and then after that, it will automate it directly. So let's have a look at it. So for example, this is more or less a road corridor, and the Dynamo will be on your ribbon. It'll be installed via your desktop app. And this is more or less the parameters that it looks, or how it looks like. It does look complicated, to be honest, if you're not used to actually visual scripting. But what we're doing is those nodes that you've seen, we actually put in parameters and linked it in. So like here, we use a rail example for to display it. So we've got the rails or the sections that we would use. We linked it to the CAD file, and then from there, it automated it at set positionings. Same thing with the light posts. We've got that Excel sheet that you've just seen. We linked in there. You can see it's a CSV. And then what it does is it auto-generated or it auto-placed it according to your scripting. So these scripts are free online. Okay. Also, when you access Dynamo for the first time, there is a lot of visual scripts that you would do. And then from there, we will take it from there. So the visual scripting part of it is very good. And then from there, you can see when we do a 3D drive through the software, it looks really, really awesome. Okay, so I would suggest the best thing to do for that is play around with Dynamo, get more or less familiar with it. Like I said, it's a new thing that hit the market, and once you do wield it correctly, it's going to help your automation for your design much better. The cool thing is it integrates with a lot of other software, so you can use Dynamo for Fusion 360, you can use it for Revit, you can use it for AutoCAD, and of course you can use it for Civil 3D. So very, very cool tool to use. And then the next thing we're going to be actually looking at is storm and sanitary analysis, or SSA. A lot of users till today are not actually familiar with SSA. So when you install Civil 3D, SSA is automatically installed with it as well. So you should recognize a shortcut on your desktop with it. And if you're not familiar with it or you need to learn it step by step, when you open the software, I think it's under help, there is a fully fledged manual that you could use. It's quite a detailed manual. So if you are in water, please have a reference for it. Look into it, try it out. And if you want to have a conversation around it, my details will be at the end of the webinar. If you haven't added me on LinkedIn and stuff, I will display that later. So you can always contact me and we can have a chat about it, right? So that's more or less SSA. It's the water tool for Civil 3D. So you do your modeling of your pipes and stuff like that in Civil 3D, but when it comes to the actual analysis part of it, it exports it to the software called SSA, where you can open it and do different types of analysis. So in this segment of 2020, air water conditions have been done separately, so you can actually analyze them separately according to multiple storm events, which is quite cool. Also, the peak factor, you can assign it to your hydrographs per sub-basin. We didn't have that functionality before because you had to use one collective one for all of them. And of course, the storage has been updated in terms of the ADS and Caltech, which are available. We'll show you that now. Why it's important, of course, water has a place in every design, any new infrastructure, roads, buildings, anything like that. And you can link it using hydrographs. So we normally in South Africa, we use normally a rational method. It works, right? We normally have our Excel sheets. I used to have one, just populate it, input your TCs, your parameters, your catchments and stuff like that, and you'll get your Q at the end. However, now you can actually do it with the software using either a hydrograph, where you can input your custom hydrographs, where you could get it mostly from weather services, or if you have a water department, they should have an access to it. Use that data and then just edit the unit hydrographs that are there already. So if you don't speak the water language, I'm going to show it to you very quickly. All right, so let's have a look at SSA for the enhancements. Okay, so this is how it would look like. So this pipe network was generated in Civil 3D. Once you open it, you'll have a 2D view like this. If you look at these squares that you're seeing on your screen, I'm just highlighting them with my cursor. Those are more catchments per segment. And then from there, you can actually customize them depending on your outfall diameter or your boundary rather. And you can see now we can actually customize those attributes individually. So you can have different water elevations and stuff like that, fixed or not fixed. From there, you can use those references to set a peak rate factor per sub-basin, right? So like I said before, we had to use one peak factor for all of them, whereas now you can more or less customize them. You can see it's a much more better approach using Excel, more or less, if you look at it. And all of these reports can be exported to Excel. So if you wanted to more or less export it somewhere for reference, be it in a report or something like that, you can use it using the reports manager. In terms of the interface, I hope that they would upgrade this one like how they have done with the Civil 3D, because it looks very, very basic. But sometimes basic is actually good for water design. And as you can see, your storage curves and that can be analyzed and visualized using the tools that you would be. Of course, your curve IDs, you can edit that according to what you'd like, override it, and then the analysis updates accordingly. Okay, the next thing that we looked at was the gravity networks. So these are more or less the things that in infrastructure civils you would use much more. It's much more popular, I would say, because of your gravity drainage and stuff like that. But I will show you now, rather than reading all of these texts, but you can, your HGL, your hydraulic grade line performance, your inlet analysis, all of that has been updated. And the cool thing is that with your analysis, it will help you to size your pipes accordingly. So you do have two options if you have used this before. If you do recall for piping that you have an option to say tick or lock pipes, so that when analysis does run, it doesn't change or resize your pipes. Now what you can do is you can resize it, and then you can actually decide, okay, cool, I want this to be updated or reflected accordingly. Okay, so let's look at the gravity networks. So here we are, we've got a gravity network that has been generated. You can see the structures have been in there. Structure property is still the same, more or less, for editing in terms of your gradients, your demand. So that's what we're doing there. Of course, ours will be in meter cube per second. That's our normal Q, and then velocity meters per second. And then from there, these are all in Civil 3D. So a lot of this functionality has brought into directly to the software. If you've done culverts and stuff like that, you should be familiar with tailwater, your TWs, your HWs, all of those dimensions there, and then you can customize them accordingly. From there, you can actually even set an intensity table, and what the software does, it actually flags things. So as you can see there, we've got ticks, and then we've got also the hazard sign. that will tell you that you actually need to fix it or go and address it accordingly. And then from there, like I said, the reports can be generated by simply clicking the report, exporting it to Excel, and then you can actually more or less tidy it up or make it look or customize it much more visually. The other enhancements, I'm not going to really go into them directly because they're a bit, I won't be relative to South Africa that much. You can apply it. So let me just clarify that statement. All of this can be applied in our software that we have. So it's available in South Africa, Africa, Europe, Americas, wherever you want to work. However, like, for example, Chinese designs and stuff wouldn't be relative to us. But if you're doing rail and core design, it's really, really cool what they've done, because normally when we had to share our alignment design in InfraWorks, we had to convert it to a center line road alignment so that it will pick up and it will be updated accordingly like a road would be. If you haven't tried it, try it out. It might be sounding like I'm talking gibberish here at the moment, but interoperability from an IMX perspective, as well as the rail alignment being segmented into its own class, is much better. And then, of course, like I said, migration utilities are better. Drawing rework, like I said, if you export a Civil 3D, try it out, export it to a CAD and see how much better it looks. It doesn't look much like a watered down version. It actually looks the way that you would have it in Civil 3D, much more visual with the line types and stuff like that. Okay, and then of course there's new templates. So where you would start your new drawing on Civil 3D, that bottom part there where you select a template, there are some added templates there for your application, and of course the integration of an SQLite file, the most common one used for InfraWorks, is also there. Okay, so that's more or less the Civil 3D part of things, the detailed design part of it. Let's look at InfraWorks. Everyone likes InfraWorks because it's visual. It's much more better to understand rather than using those 2D lines or 3D visual lines that you've seen previously. So this is what I'm going to go through for InfraWorks. So the ArcGIS or ArcGIS save back functionality, I'm going to explain that. Really nice, really updated, streamlined. I really like that feature. Schema is also very important. I will get into that, where you can add much more attributes or metadata, which is the correct word. Spreadsheet-based edits, like you've seen previously. So if in structures and using Revit, if you do any bridge designs or any families in Revit and you're exporting to InfraWorks, you can actually edit that using the spreadsheet functionality. The design or the example that I do have here currently is for a bridge because it is civil infrastructure. And then, of course, component roads, we have been able to colorize it or customize it according to what you'd like. So I'd rather show that it's better. Conversion of the traffic simulation to desktop, I will get through that at the end. Okay, so let's get back into or start off with the save back to ArcGIS. More or less, like I said, you will get normally GIS data from your online Esri or something like that, where you would have ArcGIS login. You would log in, and the cool thing is now you can link it to your actual CAD model or your design model. Why it's important is simply because if you have used ArcGIS online, you can actually highlight an area that you're looking in, and you could filter out exactly what services you want to highlight and then link it to your CAD model. So for example, let's say you highlighted the area and you said, okay, I want all the sewer lines, for example. It will highlight or it will bring in all the data that's linked to it for the sewer lines, and then you can import that into your InfraWorks, which is much more better for positioning. And if for some reason or generally when you're doing a design, you would have to more or less rearrange certain services, move them, link them back in. This is where save back comes in. So when you do your design, you finalize it, you link in your services, save it back to the original ArcGIS data, and it updates in both platforms, which is really, really cool. Okay, so let me show you that. All right, so let's get back into this GIS. All right, so again, it's called ArcGIS Online. You will have try it out if you haven't. So this is how the online view looks for ArcGIS if you haven't used it before. We can actually export to classify things according to feature layer. For example, so there's we actually use a stormwater here. So that's how it looks in InfraWorks. Okay, so let's say that structure is there. Okay, the GIS comes in perfectly. And let's say, for example, we had to link in something. So we took that pipe with its structure and we had to relink it to somewhere else, and we moved it. So you can see the snaps, you can adjust it accordingly. You can drive it. It works really easily. And you can also adjust the elevations, the tie-ins and stuff like that by simply typing it in. So you can see all the data sources from Esri have already come in for that area, right? And now what we've done is we using the save back functionality so that the original data gets updated. So now that when we log into ArcGIS, you will see that now once we have updated it, that has actually moved into the place according to your model. So the reason for it, or why this came about, is normally when we were doing designs, we found out that one part was updating, but when you go back to the original data, it wasn't. And then people working or collaborating on a project will be like, the pipe is still here, why is it in your model like this? So now that we've updated the changes and we use the same back functionality, it keeps everyone on the latest, I don't like using this word, but revision, and because we so commonly use it in South Africa and actually throughout the project lifecycle. So everyone's on the latest revision and stuff like that. The next thing is extended schema. So schema is more or less when you add much more fields to an object or to a model. So before we had to do that by creating a .json file. That normally you had to populate. It wasn't really user friendly. I'm really glad that they built it directly into the software where you simply use a plus or add button and you can add in the schema. Let me show you that. What this is, what's a great thing about it is we all use it working towards or moving towards, instead of drawings, we working towards models now. So the web drawings will be slowly being phased where people are actually creating models. So here we are in InfraWorks. We go to the add extended schema functionality, and you can see now we're adding attributes. So that's called a schema, right? And then as you can see, every time we click on the plus sign, we can add much more data fields. So for example, we can add in owner, we can add install date, whatever we feel that is more or less relevant to the actual project when we're handing over the model, especially for your O&Ms, your operational management's maintenance or management segment of a project or handover project. So your BIM data comes in, as you can see. Once you add in all of those fields, it is displayed, and now you can actually go and populate that according to what you would need. Okay, simple, straightforward, but very, very effective. All right, the next thing is the spreadsheet-based edits. Simply put, that once you create, for example, in this case, a bridge, you can export that file and then from there edit it according to Excel, because we like using Excel by inputting accurate data, exact values. So you won't put in data that's 123.45666666. It's impossible to more or less construct something like that. You'll make it maybe 125 exact or 130, normally rounding up to 5 or 10 depending on your designer code analysis. So let's look at exactly how that works. So again, Revit users should actually make full use of this. We can do it in InfraWorks, and Revit incorporating your models become very easy. So here we are, we sent a spreadsheet. Again, save it to wherever you like. So again, it was a bridge, and then it opens up like this. So all of the data or all of the CAD metadata that comes through parametric data, we can edit it according to what we like here. So you can do an initial prelim design, you can go and edit it further like this, or if the Revit model comes in and you need to more or less edit it for some reason, we won't recommend it because Revit is the detail tool. Your structural engineer should have had it proper. Once you've done that, send to spreadsheet, you update it, and as you can see, the peer or the actual columns are updated instantaneously. So we're trying to make everything much more type-based because that's where automation is going in now, and it's much more better and much more simpler to incorporate. The next thing I like also for visual representation, because sometimes you can get caught up exactly what color represents what, is the cut and fill material, right, for component roads. So once you do a component road, you can actually generate quantities in InfraWorks. So if you haven't known that, you can. You can break it up by segments, or what we would call in Civil 3D regions. Do that and then color code it according to what you'd like. So if you're a creative person, by all means, you can go and assign whatever color you like. But let's have a look at that. So let's say we've done our road, we've done our cut and fill quantities. So here we are. You can see that the grading gets highlighted like that. But what we can do is we can assign a color. So you can use either a basic color, or as you can, we'll see just now, look how nice that looks. If you know red is cut and maybe green is full, or in this case it was cyan, you can alternatively you can assign a render material. So you can see the grass is more or less the full, and then the more darker color or concrete full part of thing is the cut. Like simple tweaks like this makes your design much more easier to understand, and as a designer I like it. It's much more visual. Okay. So that's a cut and full thing, and that actually brings me to the end of it. Right, so you can see the functionality has been enhanced. You won't realize it. It might seem as minor things to you now if you haven't used it. Promise you, once you get into the design flow and you're working on interconnected projects, it's a real lifesaver. So this is a conclusive summary of what we've covered. So like I said, Dynamo, SSA for gravities and stuff like that. The user interface looks much more slicker. Rail designs have become much more better. But what I would say is the biggest concentration points going forward, where you would see a lot of development, will be on the GIS interface part of it, water being the analysis and modeling part, as well as Dynamo. You will hear Dynamo a lot coming up and going into the future. The thing that I left last was the actual traffic simulation. So if you're looking at that, if you've used InfraWorks before, you would have remembered that we had a traffic module that was attached to it. What this does was it helped us to analyze like intersections and stuff like that for traffic analysis and simulation, where you could adjust your timings, your conflicts and stuff like that. What we've done now, or what we're going to be doing in the future, is we're going to converting it to a separate desktop shortcut. So if you have to do your traffic, it'll be a separate station. I understand why they're doing this, because traffic has become a very complicated problem, and I would think that I can't stand by this at the moment, but if you're looking at the way development is going from the developers, they're trying to make it a much more fully fledged system, right? Maybe hopefully it'll reach the big competitors for traffic simulation like Sidra and stuff like that. But I would think that they're enhancing the capabilities. So to build it in directly to the InfraWorks normal platform maybe would have been very user heavy and stuff like that. So just keep an eye out for that. And if you do have the traffic still available to you, I'm not sure when they're phasing out by, or when it's going to be officially converted to a desktop icon. That I cannot tell you. We'll be waiting for developers to tell us that. But if it is still there, just go and play around with it and see how it's currently looking, so you can gauge differently how the desktop application will be. Okay, so yeah, that brings me to the end. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. I hope it was insightful, useful to see exactly what's new. I hope it showed you features that you already have available in Civil 3D and InfraWorks that you can apply to your design that you thought weren't there. It's going to help you a lot for creating BIM models, interconnected models, and we're phasing away, like I said, from drawings, and we're actually going towards a model. So the drawing will be the integrating or the stepping in parts for actual forming the model, and then from there we're attaching data, GIS and stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, if you do have any questions and stuff like that, you can always email it to me. My email is shoaib@bakerbains.com. And then if you don't have me on LinkedIn already, please do add me and subscribe. The reason being is a lot of cool content, learning content, free content. From my side, I always post a lot of free stuff because I love design. So if you also in the same bracket, which I hope, please do subscribe and follow me, because there's a lot of cool content that I do share. Also interact with the users. Like if you see something cool, please do share it with me as well. comment. And also, if you want to see any future webinars on topics that are more or less you're struggling with, or you're having a problem with, be it in Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Map 3D, any infrastructure related stuff, please drop me an email and I can actually do a webinar in the future to come. All right. Also, here's our Baker Benz pages. You should be familiar with them by now. LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever your flavor is, we actually got it there. And then, yeah, we also have a lot of other webinars. So I do the civil infrastructure and mining segment of it, which is quite a big portfolio. But we also have the Revit specific one, which will focus more on the structural aspects of build design, and also the architectural MEP and stuff like that. And then we've got manufacturing process plant, where your inventors, mechanical components comes into play. So we do cater for every segment in design. So whatever your flavor is, please subscribe. You will see our posts on LinkedIn. We're very active. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And I always share you will get a notification where the recording is uploaded onto the site. So if there was someone that missed, that unfortunately couldn't join us today, share it with them. They can have a look at it. And then I'm always reachable on email. LinkedIn is your go-to place if you need to contact me. And yeah, that's more or less my quick blitz webinar. I hope to see you all for the next one. It's good to see the attendance really high, because it actually motivates us and makes us feel good to actually do these webinars, and it's reaching people and helping them design a better world. So again, thank you very much. Have an awesome Friday, and see you for the next webinars.